back to my channel. It's Amber Telly here, and today we're going to know all about the Scholars Mate Part 2. I hope you are very excited. First, make sure to subscribe to my channel, click the bell, like this video, and put a comment down below. Now, let's begin. First, let's review what we learned in the last video, which is about the Scholars Mate Part 1. First of all, do you even remember what the Scholar Maze is? Yes, the Scholar's Maze is a very tricky trap that a checkmate in 4 moves. White can do this to black, but black can also do this to white. But in the last video, in this video, we will be continuing doing the white example. Remember that the checkmate is on square of doom. F2 for white and F7 for black. But why is it called the square of doom? Do you remember that? Yes, because only the king is protecting that. And because the king is an old grandpa, that pawn is very weak. Now, let's remind yourselves how the checkmate works. For white, the first move is E4. For black, the first move is E5. Now, I told you before that it's very common to move your G1 knight to the square of F3. However, in the Scholar's Mate, because you are using the light squared bishop and the queen to do the checkmate, you actually develop your light squared bishop to the square of this. Bishop is going to land on the square from space C4, attacking the square of doom. Now, I told you that the bad move was to develop black's bishop to C5, because once white's D1 queen moves to the square of H5, it's unstoppable to stop that queen from checkmating. Of course, I told you that this move is horrible, because developing your knight won't even help, because this queen will just say, nah, you don't threaten me bad on the knight, I'll just checkmate you on the 4th move. And bam, she eats the square of doom's pawn. Remember that I told you that this sneaky snake bishop hiding in a hold is protecting the queen. And I told you that the best move is, wait, I'm not going to tell you the answer yet. What do you remember? Pause the video and see if you can remember. I hope you remember the move knight to F6, because this queen cannot move to H5, or else this knight will neigh happily as he gobbles up the queen, and this queen falls into a sand pit or gets sucked up by a tsunami or something. Just use your imagination, like I said. But do you remember the puzzle I gave you in the last video? What was the puzzle? Yes, the puzzle was if your queen first develops to H5 before developing your bishop. If you haven't thought of your answer, look at this board, pause the video, and figure out your answer. Well, I hope you did not think of the move G6. That's absolutely a terrible move, because even though you're trying to scare this queen away, this queen will actually happily eat this E5 pawn because no pieces are protecting it. as you can see, she is attacking the king and the rook, which is called a fork. I'll briefly explain to you what a fork is now, but in the next video, I'll be doing a full video on what forks are. So a fork is technically that a piece is attacking two or more of his opponent's pieces. You'll see more examples later on, just to get you understand. So because you always have to save your king, pretend this knight just moves to the square of e7 and blocks out the check. But now this queen will happily eat the rook because it is also unguarded. Now black has lost a rook and a pawn for nothing. Of course it's better than checkmate, but it's still not good. I also hope you didn't think of the move of f6. Although it's not as bad as g6, you will also lose a pawn for nothing. Of course, you'll just lose 1 point because a pawn is worth 1 point. But that's not exactly the move you want. You want to save all your pieces for perhaps something important. Surprisingly, the best move is not to chase the queen yet. In fact, it is to move your b8 knight to the square of c6, protecting this e5 pawn. You'll see why in a few seconds. So now this bishop thinks that that knight is no threat, and so she or he plays to c4. And now there are 2 attackers on the square of doom. But now you are not afraid to play g6 because now this queen cannot eat the e5 pawn, or else this knight will gobble up the queen and she'll end up in his big fat tummy. So the queen puts her hands on her hips and says, I tried to checkmate you on the square of doom, but you caught me and I promise never ever to do it again. And boom, where does she go, Tally? She moves to the square of f3. And so she lied. She's still attacking the square of doom. Tally is absolutely correct. This queen lied. She's a trickery queen. But black isn't afraid. Do you know the move? Pause the video and see if you can find out. Well, the best move is developing your g8 knight to the square of f6. It's, like I said in the review, it's blocking out the queen's any vision to this f7 pawn from f3. So this queen puts her hand on her hips again and says, I tried to checkmate you on the square of doom, but I promise never ever to do it again. Boom. She moves to b3. She's also still putting pressure on the f7 pawn. But pretend black just plays a random move, like developing his pawn to d6. And even though this bishop captures the pawn, it's just check, not checkmate. Let's go back to the position. But now you can see what a lead in development black is. Let's see how much moves the white queen has moved. 1, 2, and 3. While black calmly develops his pieces and stops the checkmate. If you are black and you know these tactics, well, you can easily stop the scholar's knight. But if you don't, I'd recommend you watching this video a few more times. If you are white, you better calculate if you want to do the scholar's knight or not. And that's it for today, my friends. Part 2 of the Scholar's Mate. I hope you learned something because now we are done with the Scholar's Mate, a tricky 4-move checkmate.